All right, Talk Tickers listeners, welcome back. Now, we usually spend our time here deep diving into those earnings calls. But today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to be tackling some breaking news that really has the financial world buzzing,
Yeah, it's not every day we see a story that has big tech and the future of finance and a whole lot of controversy all mixed into one.
Yeah, absolutely. So strap in, everybody, because we're diving headfirst into this news that Microsoft shareholders just voted against a proposal that would explore them investing in Bitcoin. They said no to Bitcoin.
A bold move for sure.
Definitely a bold move.
Yeah.
So let's break this down. A conservative think tank proposed that Microsoft should think about putting at least 1% of their assets into Bitcoin as a way to hedge against inflation. Makes sense, right? Inflation's a pretty hot topic these days.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a big concern that investors have right now.
For sure. But here's where it gets really interesting. Michael Saylor, you know him, the Bitcoin king, he actually went to Microsoft and presented arguments for the proposal. The MicroStrategy CEO, he went all in on Bitcoin, and his company's stock went through the roof.
Yeah, he definitely added fuel to the fire and brought so much attention to this proposal.
For sure. So why did Microsoft shareholders say no in the end? Well, the board actually recommended that they vote against it. They said that they already look at a bunch of different assets as part of their investing strategy, and that includes Bitcoin.
And when you really dig into Microsoft's proxy statement, you see that their main concern about Bitcoin is it's just so volatile and that they need, predictable, stable investments to run a company that big.
Yeah, keep the lights on, right? They need to keep that Microsoft machine running. Plus, we can't forget Bill Gates, right? The Microsoft co-founder. He's been pretty skeptical of crypto in the past. So the board's decision seems to make sense, kind of a cautious, risk-averse approach,
Yeah, I think that's a valid perspective for sure. They're prioritizing stability, trying to minimize risk, which for a company as big as Microsoft, it makes sense.
Yeah, totally. But then on the other hand, you have Michael Saylor painting this super optimistic picture of Bitcoin as the next huge technological wave. He even said that Microsoft could add hundreds of dollars to their stock price and potentially create trillions with a T, trillions of dollars in value if they converted assets into Bitcoin.
It's a bold vision, no doubt. It really shows you the difference between Saylor's super aggressive Bitcoin strategy and Microsoft's more, conservative stance.
It's almost like he's saying, don't be the next Yahoo, missing out on the next Facebook. Remember Yahoo? They could have bought Facebook twice, and they didn't, and look what happened.
It's a good analogy. It really gets at that fear of missing out, on something big.
Yeah, exactly. So where does all of this leave us? Well, it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture. This all comes as Bitcoin just hit $100,000 for the first time. That's getting the attention of some pretty big names.
We're seeing more and more interest in Bitcoin from a bigger investors, institutional investors. I think Amazon shareholders have also proposed that their company put at least 5% of their balance sheet into Bitcoin.
Interesting, yeah. So there's definitely a lot of talk, a lot of debate happening around corporations adopting Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And this Microsoft vote just makes it even more complex, makes you think about how much risk big companies are willing to take on, Are they ready to jump into these new disruptive technologies? And what's that going to do to the whole financial landscape?
That's the million-dollar question. Did Microsoft shareholders make the right call saying no to Bitcoin? Was this a golden opportunity they just missed out on? Or was it a really smart move to, avoid a lot of risk? What do you think?
That is the question, isn't it? You can see both sides of it. On the one hand, you can't ignore how volatile Bitcoin is. It's been up and down like crazy. And for a company like Microsoft that needs stability in their investments, that level of risk, that might just be too much to handle.
Yeah, they have to answer to their shareholders, got to make sure their money is safe and that the company keeps growing steadily. But then again, Saylor, he makes a pretty good point about the benefits of being an early adopter. What if this is the next big thing? It's that classic investor dilemma, right? Trying to balance the risk with the potential rewards.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. And that's what makes all of this so interesting. It's not just about Bitcoin itself. It's about the bigger trends that are happening in the financial world right now.
Like what didn't they say?
So listen, well, think about it. We've got this global pandemic, right? And then you have governments pumping tons of money into their economies. That's led to all this fear about inflation. And people are looking for something else to put their money into,
Yeah.
something that won't lose its value or maybe even go up in value when regular money is losing its purchasing power.
Right, right. Like a safe haven.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for a lot of investors, Bitcoin fits the bill, limited supply, decentralized. It's like digital gold, a way to store value that's not controlled by any government.
I see. I see. So inflation's pushing people towards things like Bitcoin. What else is driving all this interest?
Well, you're also seeing more and more big institutions like companies putting money into Bitcoin. MicroStrategy is leading the way, but even traditional financial institutions like BlackRock, they're starting to test the waters.
So it's not just regular people anymore. The big guys are starting to take Bitcoin seriously.
Exactly. Yeah. And when these big players come in, it makes Bitcoin seem more legitimate, right? So more people want to get in on it.
It's like a domino effect.
Kind of. Yeah.
What about the government, like regulations and stuff? Is that having an impact too?
Oh, absolutely. Governments all over the world are still trying to figure out how to deal with cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
But they're definitely paying attention. And even if the regulations aren't always, positive, having some clarity is actually a good thing for Bitcoin in the long run.
How so?
Well, it gives the big institutions some rules to follow, right? It makes them feel more comfortable investing because there's less uncertainty, less risk.
So it's like a sign of approval, even if it comes with some rules, right?
Yeah, it shows that Bitcoin is here to stay. It's going to become a part of the financial system, whether people like it or not.
So we've got inflation worries, we've got big institutions investing, we've got governments getting involved. No wonder everyone's talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like everything's coming together at the same time.
A perfect storm, right? But even with all this excitement, we got to remember that Bitcoin is still pretty new, and it can be super unpredictable. It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Definitely not for the faint of heart. You got to be ready for some big ups and downs.
Yeah, for sure. So bringing it back to Microsoft for a second, we talked about how they're being cautious and maybe they're missing out on something big. But is there more to the story?
Well, it's possible that Microsoft is actually more into crypto than they're letting on. Remember, they've been working on blockchain technology for a while now.
Yeah, but they've been pretty quiet about it.
Exactly. They could be working on their own crypto projects, or maybe figuring out ways to use blockchain in their current businesses.
So maybe this whole no to Bitcoin thing is just them trying to throw people off the scent, right? While they work on their own secret crypto plans.
That's an interesting thought. Wouldn't be the first time a tech giant has kept their plans under wraps.
Makes you wonder what they're cooking up over there.
For sure.
All right, so we've talked a lot about this Microsoft news, Bitcoin, the future of tech. I think it's time to shift gears and have some fun with this. We're going to do something a little different now in our next segment. We call it This Is Not Financial Advice. We're going to take all this talk about Microsoft and Bitcoin and come up with a crazy but maybe possible trade idea.
All right, let's get speculative. But before we do, I gotta say, this is all just hypothetical, okay? We're just having some fun. This is not financial advice. Do your own research, talk to a financial expert.
Yeah.
And make your own decisions about investing.
Exactly. We're just playing around here, exploring the possibilities. So with that out of the way, let's dive in and see what kind of mischief we can cook up in our This Is Not Financial Advice segment.
Welcome back to Talk Tickers, where we're trying to make sense of this decision by Microsoft shareholders to just say no to Bitcoin.
I know, right? It's pretty wild to see big tech making headlines in the crypto world.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a sign of the times, though. Shows you how much Bitcoin has really gone mainstream.
Definitely. So before we jump into our This Is Not Financial Advice segment, I want to kind of dig a little deeper into, what's going on here. I mean, Bitcoin just crossed $100,000 for the first time ever. That's going to have some companies, second guessing their strategy.
Yeah, I think it definitely creates that fear of missing out, that FOMO that people talk about.
Yeah.
You see the price going up and you start to wonder, should I be getting in on this?
Especially when you have guys like Michael Saylor making those big predictions, about the future of Bitcoin.
Right. But you got to remember that FOMO can be a dangerous emotion when it comes to investing. It can lead to some pretty impulsive decisions, and you can lose a lot of money.
Yeah, you don't want to just jump on the bandwagon just because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
You got to do your homework, make sure it makes sense for your situation.
Exactly. And that's why this Microsoft vote is so interesting, It shows that even with all this hype around Bitcoin, you still have some really big companies that are hesitant to go all in. They're being careful, focusing on stability and, trying to avoid too much risk.
Yeah, it makes sense. But you have to wonder, are they being too careful? Could they be missing out on something huge, like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's that classic dilemma. Do you play it safe and maybe fall behind, or do you take a chance and go for a big reward?
It's bound to how much risk you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Some companies, like MicroStrategy, they're ready to bet big on Bitcoin, while others, like Microsoft, they're playing it a little safer.
And that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating.
Mhm.
It's not just about Bitcoin. It's about these bigger changes that are happening in the financial world.
Yeah, give us the big picture.
Yeah.
What are the big things happening right now?
Well, first off, you have this whole global pandemic thing, right? And then you have
Mhm.
governments basically pumping tons of money into their economies, which leads to fears about inflation, right? And people are they're scrambling, trying to find somewhere to put their money. They want something that's going to hold its value, or maybe even go up in value when regular money, when it's buying less and less.
Right, right. Like a safe place to put your money, right? When everything else is going crazy.
Exactly, exactly. And for a lot of investors, Bitcoin seems like a good option. Limited supply, decentralized. It's like digital gold, like we were saying before, a way to store value that's not controlled by any government or bank.
So you have people worried about inflation, and that's pushing them towards things like Bitcoin. What else is contributing to all this interest?
Well, you're also seeing more and more of these big institutions, like big companies, putting money into Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, they're leading the charge, but even these traditional financial institutions, like BlackRock, they're starting to get involved.
Wow, so it's not just regular people anymore.
Yeah.
These big players are starting to take Bitcoin seriously.
Exactly. And when they come in, it kind of gives Bitcoin more legitimacy, right? Makes more people want to get
So
involved.
it's like a domino effect.
Mhm.
One thing leads to another.
Yeah, kind of like that.
What about the government?
Yeah.
Regulations and all that.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Governments all over the world, they're still trying to figure out how to regulate cryptocurrencies. But they're definitely paying attention. And you know what? Even if the regulations aren't always positive, just having some clarity, some rules to follow, that's actually a good thing for Bitcoin in the long run.
Really? Why is that?
Well, because it gives these big institutions, these big companies, a framework to operate within. It reduces uncertainty and risk, so they're more comfortable investing.
So it's like a seal of approval, even if it comes with some rules and regulations.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sign that Bitcoin is here to stay. It's going to become part of the financial system, whether people like it or not.
So you got inflation worries, you got big institutions getting involved, you got governments getting involved. No wonder everyone's talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's like everything's coming together at the perfect time.
A perfect storm, right? But even with all the hype, we got to remember, Bitcoin is still pretty new, and it's really volatile.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's definitely not for everyone.
Not for the faint of heart.
You got to be ready for some wild swings in price.
Right, right. So let's bring this back to Microsoft for a second. We're talking about how they're being cautious, maybe missing out on something big. But is there more to the story?
Well, it's possible that Microsoft is actually more involved with crypto than they're letting on. I mean, remember, they've been developing blockchain technology for several years now.
Yeah, that's true. But they've been pretty quiet about it.
Exactly. They could be working on their own crypto projects.
Uh-huh.
Maybe figuring out ways to integrate blockchain into their existing businesses.
So maybe this whole no to Bitcoin thing, maybe it's just a way to deflect attention while they're working on their own secret crypto plans.
Interesting theory. Wouldn't be the first time a tech giant has kept things under wraps.
Makes you wonder what they're cooking up over there.
Sure.
All right, so we've talked a lot about this Microsoft news, Bitcoin, the future of tech, all that good stuff. I think it's time to shift gears and have a little fun with this. We're going to do something a little different in our next segment. We call it, this is not financial advice. We're going to take all this talk about Microsoft, Bitcoin, all this stuff, and we're going to try to come up with a crazy, but maybe plausible trade idea.
All right, let's get speculative. But before we do, I got to make it clear, this is all hypothetical, okay? Just for fun. This is not financial advice. Do your own research, talk to a financial advisor, and make your own informed decisions about investing.
Exactly. We're just messing around here, exploring the possibilities. Okay, so let's have some fun with this, Remember how we were talking about how Microsoft might be like missing out on a big technological shift by not really embracing Bitcoin,
Right. That whole Yahoo moment thing where they miss out on a game-changing opportunity.
Exactly. So what if we take that idea and we turn it into like a trade? What if we just assume that Microsoft, them being hesitant about Bitcoin, what if that means they're not really ready to embrace these disruptive technologies, especially in AI, which is like super hot right now.
Interesting premise. So you're thinking maybe Microsoft is going to be like the next blockbuster, and these other companies are going to be the next Netflix of AI.
Yeah, exactly. So how could we like turn that idea into an actual trade?
Well, one way to play it, we could short MSFT.
Whoa, hold on. Shorting Microsoft. It's pretty bold. But okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, the idea is if they're really falling behind in innovation, their stock, it might not do as well as these companies that are leading the way in AI.
Okay, so we're shorting MSFT. So who are we betting on? Who's going to win this AI race?
Well, I think a good place to start would be NVIDIA, ticker NVDA. They're the leading provider of those GPUs, the graphics cards. Those are super important for AI development.
Yeah, NVIDIA is a powerhouse for sure. They're like the picks and shovels of the AI gold rush, right?
Exactly. And to spread things out a bit, we could add Google to the mix, ticker GOG. They're making some huge progress in AI research and development.
Oh yeah, Google's AI stuff is it's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I like it. So we're diversifying. That's good. What about throwing in one of those thematic AI ETFs?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Something like BOTZ, the Global X Robotics and Artificial Intelligence ETF. That'll give us a broader exposure to the whole AI theme.
Okay, I like it. So this is not financial advice trade is shaping up to be. Short MSFT, long NVDA, GOG, and BOTZ. I like the story, I like the tickers. But what are the catalysts? What's going to really make this trade take off?
Well, I think the biggest catalyst would be if we keep seeing strong adoption of AI technology across different industries. Think about healthcare, finance, manufacturing. AI is going to change all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's already happening, right? AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get bigger. What else could really boost this trade?
I think the government could play a big role. What if they start really pushing for AI development, or make regulations that are really favorable for AI applications?
Right. Like a green light from the government.
Exactly.
That could lead to a ton of investment in AI. And of course, we can't forget about those good old earnings reports.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If any of the companies we're betting on, if they have really good earnings, that could really validate our trade idea and send their stock prices up.
Okay, cool. So we've got our tickers, we've got our catalysts, but every trade has its risks, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what could go wrong with this Microsoft short. What are the potential pitfalls?
Well, the biggest risk, I think, is that Microsoft, they could surprise everyone and just come out swinging with some huge AI investments. Maybe they acquire some big AI startup or announce some amazing new AI product, or even team up with a company like NVIDIA to catch up quickly.
Yeah, Microsoft's they're a giant, right? They have tons of resources. You can't really underestimate them.
Exactly. And another risk is, the market sentiment could shift. We've seen times when investors they prefer those established tech giants like Microsoft, over those riskier high growth companies.
Yeah, the market can be pretty fickle, right?
For sure. So even if we're right about AI becoming huge, the market might not reward the companies we're betting on, at least not right away.
Lots to think about. So there you have it, folks. This is not financial advice trade idea inspired by all this. Microsoft Bitcoin news, short MSFT, long NVDA, GOG, and BOTZ.
And just to be super clear, this is all just hypothetical. For entertainment purposes only, do not try this at home.
Yes, seriously, folks, do your own research.
Yeah.
Talk to a financial professional and make your own decisions about investing. We're just having some fun here, exploring the possibilities.
Exactly.
But it's a pretty interesting exercise, isn't it? Makes you think about what could happen because of this Microsoft decision and how it might affect the whole market.
Oh, for sure.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll look back at this Microsoft shareholder vote, and we'll see it as a turning point, the moment where big tech either embraced the future or decided to stick with the past.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, the story's not over yet. We'll be keeping an eye on it, and we'll keep you updated here on Talk Tickers. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, Do your own research. This is Talk Tickers, signing off.